Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Hi, good to see a lot of familiar faces. Hello there, Republica, Blue, Catcher, Yanga, nice to see you, Navigator, Clocky, and of course, our 80s. Hello, hello. We're about to start. I hope you're all doing well today. I'm Chris. I'm excited to be here with all of you. Thank you for being here today. We're going to start our today's subcommittee meeting. Of course, the topic is stability scope. And well, as always, we'd like to start by saying thank you for being here. Of course, for us, your time and participation are invaluable, and we truly appreciate your commitment. Before we start talking about the topics that we will see today, this is our friendly reminders that we always do. We're going to share our Notion with all the links that you need in order for, if you want to rewatch any of our previous calls. There it is. Our documents as well. The proposal that we have, it's also publicly, you can see it there. And well, I think most of us have joined us previously already. So thank you for coming again. And if you appreciate our work and share values, be an aligned delegate of our Sovereign Finance AVC. And we're going to share with you, as we always do, our governance strategy document. Okay, so in here, there it is. Well, again, this is our, if you're an MCARE holder, please delegate to one of our aligned delegates. So we have also here, shout out to Hulk, and when I see that are here already. Let me see on the chat. Of course, Penguin Soldier, that we're going to discuss one of his proposals. Also, Paul, who also shared some documents with us. Thank you so much. So here it is. And if you appreciate your work, please delegate your MQR to our ADs. Okay, we're pretty excited. Look at it. Look at our topics for today. And we are going to start with our guest. If you already seen our guest today, it's Sam MacPherson, that I see already on the crowd, on the audience. He's from Phoenix Lab. And of course, he's going to discuss a little bit about labs, about protocol, about the subDAOs. And of course, if you have any questions relating to these topics, feel free to ask. Again, for us, it's very important your participation. Also, where we are going to discuss the topics that we see today, because of course, how can we not talk about the modifications of this proposal? It is the modifications on the EDSR, the Smart Engine, the enhanced safe rating that I was trying to pronounce, and of course our aligned delegates comments and proposals. So let's get started with Sam, and well, first, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Let's get it started. I'm pretty sure that most of the audience here already know about you and your work, but for others, can you please yourself and share a little bit about your work?
Sure. So hello, everyone. I'm Sam. I was previously on the Maker protocol engineering team before it disbanded, and more recently co-founded Phoenix Labs, which is developing Spark protocol first and foremost. So Spark is a money market lending engine that has the D3M attached from Maker Core. So Maker extends a credit line in DAI to Spark, and then Spark is like a secondary lending market with more advanced features. So Maker Core, for example, doesn't support rehypothecation or cross collateralization. These are features that we know users want, and so to expand the Maker ecosystem, we've built Spark protocol such that the users can have this while getting the great experience that is borrowing DAI at the best rates possible.
Awesome. I was just reading that you've never been on this Discord call before. Oh, okay. So thank you so much once again for being here. We've seen a lot of you talking in podcasts about all the work that it's been doing, because of course, like, I think that every week there's some modification, some changes. So that's why we're here to discuss a little bit about everything that you actually can tell us. And I have a couple of questions, but also I encourage to people that are in here to participate, to ask questions, to put it in the chat. So Sam could also kind of like help us with his knowledge and to solve all the doubts that we have. There is the first question that it says, what can you tell us about the requirements for ALM, asset liability management?
Yeah, so this is for Maker Core, not Spark, I assume. Okay, I'm going to assume that it's talking about Maker Core because ALM does not really a big thing in Spark specifically, but ALM, so asset and liability management, is the study of making sure that Maker can maintain all of its objectives. So first and foremost, Maker needs to maintain the DAI peg so that it is at $1. If the peg breaks, it's bad for the users. It's an incredibly terrible experience. So, and then the other main constraint that Maker has is it wants risk-adjusted yield to be as high as possible. So right now, the ALM is fairly straightforward. Basically, you want to put as much as possible into the highest yielding opportunity, risk adjusted, of course. This is always risk adjusted. So that would be something like decentralized collateral borrowing at above the DAI savings rate, or treasury bills for all the excess capacity that is unused, because T-bills are the best yield right now, risk adjused. Now, the other constraint is the peg. So Maker needs to maintain a certain buffer of usually USDC, and then there will be Tether being onboarded as well. Both Tether and USDC are more liquid than DAI, so it makes sense to have some amount of exposure. Previously, that was currently it's being done through the peg stability module, but it was a first attempt. It was works well enough for the start, but Maker loses a lot of money, and Maker's basically losing a lot of money maintaining this one-to-one hard peg. It's much better for Maker to do these AMO type solutions, similar to what Frax does, where they directly inject liquidity into other dexes like Uniswap and Curve and Balancer and whatnot. So Maker will be more going in that direction. And then ALM is really just the practice of balancing yield and duration risk.
You mentioned that very crucially important that the Maker is losing money. So it's a way to start talking about this specific and relevant situations and problems in order that what is Maker doing in order to kind of like solve these kind of things. I have another question, but on the chat, Penguin Solder asked, are the DAI USDC faucets working on the site yet?
This is on Spark, I assume. Yeah, I think the faucet has broken. Yeah, that's an issue with Maker. I believe the PSM on the test net is filled up or something like that. we increasingly don't have access to modify that. So yeah, sometimes testnet stuff breaks, but yeah, we can definitely take a look at fixing that. You can actually get your own DAI pretty easily. You just use the Maker contracts on the testnet to deposit yourself some ETH or something like that, and then take out a loan on the testnet Maker instance, and then you can get some DAI.
Well, since we're moving on to talking about Spark, how does the parameter that affects DAI emission and burning on Spark works?
The DAI emission and burning. Sorry, could you remind me what this is about? I'm not entirely clear.
Oh, the parameters, like what are the requirements that you're seeing in order for you to kind of have this emission and burning?
For Maker Core, yeah. So right now, Maker has extended well, actually, just what got approved 2 hours ago was raised to the 200 million debt ceiling. So this will be the capacity of Spark. But once the allocation system goes live, the allocators will likely just keep some small buffer on top of whatever the outstanding debt is. So let's say there's 90 million in borrows, then allocator DAOs will likely want to just maybe keep 10, 20 million as excess idle DAI available to be borrowed. And if that gets borrowed, they'll just top it up and you just continue this process. Similarly, if the borrows are paid back, then allocator DAOs may remove some of that idle DAI to ensure that the buffer is kept tight. Now, it's really up to the allocator DAOs what to do here. So I'm just guessing what's going to happen, but it's completely open.
Okay. And since you mentioned the allocator DAO, will allocator DAO to be a collection of projects or exclusively focused on Spark protocol?
So yeah, definitely open to everybody. It doesn't have to be under the Spark brand. It's like we want to foster an inclusive environment. So I think we haven't seen too many other protocols coming in yet, but we've been actively encouraging them to do so, get involved in the subDAO, and integrate their own projects into the allocation system. It can be under the Spark brand or under their brand. We're open to all things.
What do you think this is happening? What do you think there are not many, let's say, I don't know, like organizations are getting involved in this? What is needed?
What is needed is more clarity. So people are still uncertain about what it looks like to integrate with Maker. We've been actively, so we're actually putting together some documentation presentations. We've been at conferences, hackathons, trying to get people excited about integrating with the Maker allocation system. But I mean, the design for this has actually only just been finalized over the past week or two. So like, it's not, people just don't know what to do yet. So we're going to be spreading the good word over the next few months, trying to get people excited about integrating their own projects. The other thing is just clarity around the subDAO structure, the subDAO tokens in general. That's still not clear enough, but I believe there'll be more clarity on that over the coming weeks, so that we can really start doing a big push to get people excited about this.
I think we can all agree on this part that you mentioned, that more clarity, it's not clear enough, and I think we're all working in order for that to be more understandable for everyone. Since well, there's always something changing, and well, it's I think a work of all of us, and also the reason why we're here. Well, the next question, if you can tell us about like how is the revenue distributed between Spark and MakerDAO?
Yeah, so currently 100% of the revenue coming from the DAI market is going to Maker. Spark earns nothing from that market. There is some revenue coming in from the ETH market that is going into the holding contract for now. That's at 15% of the borrow rate. It's not a particularly huge amount. When the allocation system comes online, there will be what's called the base rate enacted. And when the allocator DAOs are free to allocate to what they want, they just have to pay the base rate to Maker. And then they can earn 100% of the yield on top of that.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, there is another question regarding this. Well, not exactly this, but it's more of the DSR. So what must be in place in order to implement DSR being a party protocol?
Is this about the EDSR?
DSR.
Just the DSR, not the EDSR?
Yes. Yeah, the DSR.
Okay.
Both,
Yeah,
if you can.
Yeah, okay. I can talk about both. So Spark already has a tokenized version of the DSR on the market called Savings DAI that has temporarily been frozen because of the EDSR. So another vote that just passed 2 hours ago is the temporary enhanced DSR, which will raise the DSR rate to 8%, but leave the borrow rates at what they are now. So to avoid a fairly useless leverage loop, Spark had to deactivate the SDAI as collateral and freeze that market for the time being until the DSR comes back down under the borrow rate or equal to it. So yeah, that was the reason there was a freeze there. But the EDSR, it seems like a great addition. I think it's going to spur a lot of activity and new demand for DAI and integrations and stuff like that. I think it's a great initiative.
Yeah, we're actually gonna talk about this, of course, about this modification and the DSR and also the EDSR. And well, you just mentioned it. For you, this is like a great initiative, right? And already it has been confirmed, as you mentioned, just a few hours ago.
Yeah, it's a great initiative. I think it's gonna yield is the thing people want most in DeFi. So it should spur a lot of activity.
Okay, there is a question on the chat. Navigator asks, well, not actually, it's a common endgame interest and excitement seem to spread outline after, oh yes, after ETHCC, long may that continue. Yes, I think that, well, you already say it, Sam. I think it's about spreading the word. And of course, these huge events and hackathons really helped. What do you see when you were talking about it? Did you see like people getting excited and asking more about this after you mention it?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, it's still early days, so we're still getting our feet under us for the hackathons and stuff like that. But so we did a hackathon at ETHCC. That was the ETH Global one. Yeah, we're starting to see more and more interest integrating things like Savings DAI, integrating the new conduit system, which is the integration into Maker allocation system. As well as Spark integrations as well. So when we present this stuff to people, are just unaware of it right now. So presenting to people, you can see there's excitement and ideas, especially these types of things where Maker's open and people can really be creative. This is the type of thing that really gets people excited in hackathons and really just in general, I would say.
Totally. I think that Maker should do more of this. And so that there will be more people like kind of like wanting to know more what's going on here. Pedro from the team asks, do you believe there... Oh, well, this is a different... Let's move on to the next one. He asked, do you believe there is a specific section of the stability scope that could be improved in order to make rules easier for third parties to integrate as allocator subDAOs?
Yeah, I think mainly it's the messaging around the allocation. So we've been working on that, improving what we're saying to other partners in the space. Because really, Maker is the only place for liquidity at scale. And this is something that, so it's literally Maker has it and every other project wants this. So it's like a match made in heaven. And how to explain this to people is going to be really key. So part of what my team has been doing, going around to these conferences, we are preparing presentations and stuff like that to make it very clear what people get when they integrate with Maker. So the stability scope, it's very good to have these detailed rules, but for getting people excited, getting people started, I think it's good to also have this very more accessible presentations and stuff like that of what the value add is to their protocols. Maybe I can answer the questions. Yeah, so SDI will...
Oh, I muted. I thought I was talking. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was talking. It was the other way around. My mic was open and I muted. Yeah, I was actually reading what the next question that it says, and I agree with you. I was saying that more qualifications, it's improve the wording of the scopes. Actually, this is also one of the topics that we're going to see in here on the slides, and also that's why our ADs also are working with us in order to kind of be more clear in what it's needed, and also kind of like things that it could be ambiguous. So yeah, I think that's the thing. Clocky comments the recent surge in the token's value also undoubtedly adds to the allure. Totally. Okay, the next question is from Penguin Soldier. He says, any insights on whether Spark will be creating a new token with similar mechanisms to SDAI to cater the EDSR, or how so?
Yeah, so SDAI will, it's a tokenization of the DSR, so it will get the 8% yield. You don't have to do anything if you're already in SDAI.
Okay. Next, can someone for compound and be another allocator DAO?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, competition is encouraged in the subDAO system. Each subDAO should have its own brand, its own version of money market, its own version of everything. It's through competition that you keep everybody honest and giving users the best experience. So the whole system is designed, the endgame system is designed for maximum competition in these regards. And I encourage other subDAOs to launch money markets under different brands.
Okay, so after this, I think we all know that, of course, that we hope that after what you're all saying, and then more people get the initiative to be part of this. Anon Builder asks, what is the criteria to be accepted if someone come up with a fork?
This is an interesting question. Is this within Spark or like just the subDAOs in general?
Say the subDAOs, but let's see. Anon Builder is writing.
Yeah, okay. I mean, within any of the subDAOs, they all set their own rules and they don't exist yet. So I don't know. I think there needs to be some amount of due diligence that's done as Maker is underwriting a lot of the credit at this stage. So what's to be accepted? The team needs to be performing due diligence, making sure things are audited. They need to be competent. Forks, you need to have deep knowledge of these systems. So forks could be hacked and stuff like that. So the great care needs to be taken with this stuff. It's part of why with Spark, we've done a very, very vanilla deployment, just ETH and staked ETH and DAI borrowing. And we're just sticking to the most, the safest configurations just to make sure this extra layer of safety is taken into account.
I see. Okay. The next question is, what was the diligence process Spark went through? Maybe there can be a guide. What would be the starting place?
Yeah. So the due diligence process is my team and I went over the Aave code base very, very thoroughly for months, understanding all the details of it. We then deployed instances of it way back in March. So the Spark protocol went live in May. So that was 2 months in advance. We had already deployed it, and we're reviewing the deploy very thoroughly. We also had independent auditor, chain security, review all the custom contracts that we made, as well as audit the deployment. So just many eyes on the deployment, getting independent feedback. We also worked with the risk team at Maker to make sure the configurations were okay. It's just months and months and months of just make sure everything is perfect. That's the process. And it's really all smart contract development is like that.
2 months in advance, you say March and then May. Okay. Interesting. There's a question from Kianga. He says, Sam, can you talk about the spells process and what you've implemented to have a different structure than what was the case? I don't even know the words to use to describe what I'm asking. I think we're all there, Kianga.k.
Yeah, good question. So maybe everybody's aware of the spell process as it was happening up until recently, where there was one maker spell that did everything. So any new collateral addition or parameter modification was always done in the main spell. And this process was previously headed by protocol engineering, where there would be one person writing the code and then 2 people reviewing it. The problem with this process is it doesn't scale to multiple teams. So as part of the end game, and I don't know if it's still called the omnibus process, but this is basically the idea is to, instead of have the code for new collateral additions, whatnot, inside the main spell and having it as a very unscalable process, you have these administrative contracts, sort of like mini spells, you could think of it, that are just in control of a segmented part of the ecosystem. So Spark has it's called the proxy, and it's administrator on just Spark. So it has no access to Maker core system. And so because of that, we are able, as Phoenix Labs and others as well, we are able to craft our own spell that is specific to Spark, do our own review process. So we have on our team, and hopefully as the ecosystem grows, we can have multiple teams doing this. People who are experts in Sparkland specifically. And then they can craft the spell and have the 2 review process that is isolated to just Spark. And then once that's done, it gets submitted to the main spell as a very sort of high level thing. Instead of add collateral here, make these changes here, it all gets packaged up into a bundle where it's here is a list of changes we want to do for this segmented part of the Maker ecosystem, i.e. Sparkland. And then the maker's job, it turns into, have they followed the rules? Other various checks about risk and whatnot. Are they following the processes? And then it's more of a high level, have they done their due diligence or not, and then stamp it for approval to be added to the main spell to be executed or not, and then that is given to the maker holders for final approval. So it's kind of like a recursive structure, which will allow this process to scale. Does that answer your question, Kianga?
She's writing, so.
Yes, if it's okay if I could speak, thank you. Yes, that was great. And also, Sam, I understood it has a security feature as well, and that the way the design of having the proxy is that the main spell can now be kind of locked down so that there's nothing that would be in the proxy spells that could be malicious or that any potential damage. I've seen you speak about this or write about this, that it's by design going to limit what's even possible in terms of what could be rogue or malicious coding in some of the satellite, if I could use that word, satellite spells.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, when you have this system and we're submitting a spell, bad things can happen. So don't get me wrong. This is still very dangerous stuff and we need to be careful. But there is limited scope. So, for example, if a completely malicious spell was submitted under the Spark proxy, at most, it could just take the collateral from Sparkland. It could not touch the collateral or the debt at Maker Core. So the damage is limited in that regard. So yeah, just layers and layers of safety is the way to scale this process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kianga, for the question. That was very interesting to get to know more about this spell process and also the proxy. I think that there are so many new things, as I mentioned before. Actually, last week we had a talk a little bit about this, but it was also good to know more about your insights, Sam. There is more question. I also I am seeing that Pedro is writing. And you also gave us your opinion a little about the EDSR. So let's move on to the next question that is, what are your thoughts on the impact of the money market innovation based on Uni 4 and mechanisms similar to LLAMMA? Lama.
Yeah, so Llama is Curve USD's liquidation mechanism. I still need to do a deeper dive onto it, but it looks pretty innovative. I don't think so. Maker and even most lending markets use pretty basic liquidation mechanisms, and I don't think there's any reason those should be optimal. They're just easiest. And so I'm all for innovation, and I think Llama fits that perfectly, where people are experimenting in the wider ecosystem, and if it's better, we should strive towards integrating this stuff into Maker, because it just makes everybody's life better, better for the users. Yeah. The other thing is Uni 4. Yeah, that's interesting. It's more in DEX land, which we don't really get too involved in with Maker, but yeah, there's no reason Maker shouldn't be expanding out into DEXs once it's more established in both money markets as well as stable coins. There really are like three main components of DeFi. It's a stable coin, lending, and DEXs. So I don't see any reason why SubDAO shouldn't expand into DEXs as well.
Thank you for the answer, Sam. I know that there is another question that it's that Pedro is writing. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add. For example, like you have mentioned already what we can focus on, but like in general, to the people that are here, to AVC members and participants that are always active, like what it's the first thing that we should try to focus on when it comes to in order to improve. Is there anything specific for you?
Is this for like this AVC process?
For the AVC process, for this scope, disability scope?
Yeah, I would say just iterating on the rules, making sure they're flexible enough for innovation, but also locked down enough such that Maker Core is pretty rigid for safety reasons. Yeah, I think it's just going to be an ongoing process, back and forth between the AVCs and I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with all the terminology, but yes, the people more involved in governance and the people who are involved in the sub-DAO. It's going to be a very interesting dynamic between the two, and I'm excited to help bootstrap this whole process with you guys.
Oh, thank you. And of course, we know that probably in 6 months or less, there are going to be a lot of changes. So I hope that you could also join us to talk about this. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be. Well, we have 2 questions. First, Clocky asks, considering that this alteration modifies the spell structure in a manner that may not be covered by the current delegate spell review guide, what actions should edits take to assess the bundled spells on the MakerDAO site?
This is a very good question. And I think part of this is what we need to work out together to get the process ironed out. Right now, my mental model of it is that the same spell creation process, it's like a mini version of the existing spell creation process. So I would say performing due diligence involves looking at the code, looking at who the reviewers are, making sure they've properly vetted the spell. And then, I mean, it's not going to scale infinitely, but because we're still pretty early days, I would say vetting, at the very least, looking at the pull requests of the code changes, who is, and that people, there's 1 writer and there's 2 reviewers who have independently reviewed the spell going up, as well as these spells will have more English descriptions of what they're doing in like a human way. But me personally, I'm very interested in also improving on this process. It's a very manual process right now, so automation is the way forward in my view. We are starting to see things like AI able to comprehend code pretty easily. So I would like to see more leaning into this, where spell is submitted and an AI can summarize what's going on, looking at the code and not looking at what the English description of the code is. Stuff like that, I think, will improve resiliency. Other things, one thing we've started doing is forking the changes from mainnet. So as part of the code that we submit, we also submit a simulation of what all the effects of the spell are on a service called Tenderly. So it's maybe a little bit technical for some, but it does give you more insight into exactly what's going on. Yeah, Penguin, yeah, it's good. As well as like a summary of state changes and events that are occurring. I think it gives pretty good insight, even if you're not super technical, into roughly what's going on. So as part of due diligence on Delegates side, I would recommend doing all of these things to the best of your ability.
Yes, as Penguin and Jack says, Tenderly is good. Tenderly is very awesome. So yes, and I think AI is going to help a lot in understanding all this to make this process like shorter and more clear. So I for example, as well, when it's going to be launched, all these products. There is a question from that asks, oh yeah, what's your opinion on the current base rate? It has a high influence from US Treasury rates, making a lot of DeFi allocation possibilities difficult to profit from at the rate of 3.79. Do you have any comments on this, Sam?
Yeah, the base rate should probably settle out at just slightly below the US T-bill yield, I would think, once it's in place. Right now, the rules are set manually, but we won't know what this looks like until the allocation system goes live. And then my view is that market forces will drive this spread to a low amount because it's quite easy to get this yield. And due to the mechanics of the target rate feedback mechanism on the base rate, will just drive these rates to converge naturally.
Okay, totally. Penguin Soldier says, have you guys started using the new DevNets feature yet, or just the regular hard fork?
That's a good question. So actually, I was talking with the Tenderly team this past week at the ECC, and was just made aware of DevNets. It sounds very cool. So yeah, we want to try that. We're all for improving visibility into the process. It's not only for maker holders and delegates, but for us, like it really helps getting full visibility into all the changes that are going on, and the tooling over the past few years has just gotten so much better than it used to be. So we want to use all these tools to improve safety.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know if there is any other question, or if there is other kind of information that you would like to add. I don't know, for example, for people who wants to know information up to date about Smart Protocol, about Phoenix Labs, if you could provide us maybe a website link, or where can we search this kind of information?
Website link for Spark Protocol? I mean, yeah, it's everything you shared.
Well, we have it here. Yes, I'm going to share it also in the chat. And I don't know if anything else that you would like to add.
Yeah, if you want to chat, I would say there's the working group Spark Protocol on the Maker Discord. I think that's the best place to get a hold of us.
Yes, actually, we see you very, very active all in the Discord chat as well, the group. So thank you so much, Sam, for being here, for your time, and for everyone who has questions in this. We are going to move on. And of course, if there is anything, I don't know if you would like to say something about, well, you already mentioned about the base rate changes and also the EDSR. So maybe you could also come join us if you want to have a talking about all of these modifications. Well, that was Sam, everyone. And we are going to continue actually with this. Don't worry, we're going to do it as we're not going to take a lot of your time, so don't worry. We're going to talk very briefly about this. So these are the modifications, as you saw from this proposal. Just in case if you don't know what proposal we are focusing on here, I'm going to share also the link on the chat. Oh, Sam says, thank you guys, it was fun. Come and join us whenever you want, Sam. It's not for everyone. We're gonna talk about the topic for today, but I'm pretty sure that everyone was with all the information that Sam has shared. It's now more clear a lot in different contexts of the information he just gave. Okay, so this is the modifications, and of course, here we put some of the definitions for the specific sections that it was modified, which have the base rate, the DAI saving rate, and the SUDAO ALM requirements. So the base rate is the base yearly increase in depth on allocator and Sagittarius Luxed engine volts. It is the reference rate for calculating the DSR and the stability fees. The DAI saving rates, of course, please feel free to put the comments on the chat about this. And well, the DSR is the rate the DAI holders can earn under DAI in the DAI savings rate smart contracts. Of course, there is a formula for each of them. And then we have the SUDAO's ALM requirements. Allocator DAOs will have capitalization requirements of their effective junior capital based on what kind of exposure they have from their allocator vaults. Okay, so this is the current formula. We have the yield collateral yield benchmark minus 0.7%. We have the proposed formula that, as Sam also mentioned, this has already been accepted, so it's going to be like this one. It increases by 0.03 yield collateral yield benchmark and lowers by 0.03 stability collateral yield benchmark. Again, this is also in the post that we share. This is in the forum. And the impact is lower spread between stability fees and DSR, minus 0.1%. And as we all know, this has already been accepted. This is the current formula. And then there is this modification. So in the ALTR1, it's pretty much the same. That's why we haven't put anything about it. And we are starting with the Subproposal tier 2. And it says ALTR2 collateral must be able to convert to cash stablecoins within almost 2 weeks, with expected slippage and realized loss of at most 1%. So this is minus 4%. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on this. What do you think about this? That it's already been accepted? The delegates, what do you guys think? Or anyone that is here, if you have comments on all these changes. I'm going to read the part that has been modified. So it can be used for 78% of the allocator DAO's collateral portfolio. And something relevant as well is that immediately convert to DAI and repay the necessary amount of ALM Tier 2 collateral to bring total exposure to LAM Tier 2 collateral or higher to 78% whenever the total exposure of the DAI collateral portfolio to collateral of ALM Tier 2 of higher exceeds 82%. Then there is modifications also on tier number 3. It says that the excess ALM tier 3 collateral has an additional 10% effective junior capital requirement, that it's plus 5%. The tier 4, the modification basically is that ALM Tier 4 collateral must be able to convert to cash stablecoins within at most 3 years with no slippage. This is it means that 2 more years. And then it can be used for 10% of the allocator DAO's collateral portfolio with no effective junior capital requirement. Let me see. I think we have some. Jack says, I think it's very important to figure out who is measuring this as a sort of truth. The DSR was accepted, but not that this is not what already under vote. Oh, yes. This is not, this is the EDSR that we're going to take in a little while. Thank you, Pedro, for remind me. Yes. So that's a small correction. And as I'm going to read what the Pedro says, it's in Run's monthly MIP, the MIP edits. And he's asking Clocky, do you plan to send your proposal? Yes, we're going to ask for proposals of our ADs in just a while. So, and then the next modification, it's this part. With number 4. And something relevant as well is that subtier 5 collateral ALM is deleted. So this is when it comes to the categories, the risk categories. As you can see, this was just one of the modifications on the post, Arun's post. Okay, next up, we're gonna talk about the Smart engine. And well, let's start by saying that this was turned on the 17th, July 17th. And with this, we also want to share some links in order for you to see kind of like the differences in here. So, of course, this screenshot was taken a while ago, but if you want to take a look, you can do it right now. I'm just going to share the link. So, pointing out that this is not right now because this screenshot was taken like 2 hours ago. But this, you could see the differences. This is when the Smart engine was turned on, and this was 2 hours ago. So this is kind of like the figure that I'm also sharing the link with you. It was this was the amount of system surplus, and this is for 2 hours ago. And if you want to see it currently, is this one. And we find it relevant to share it since oh, I don't know if I'm sharing this one. Yes. Okay. And this part as well. And for you to see also this part, I'm going to share the link. Okay, we find it relevant to put in here the difference in surplus since the Smart engine was activated. Again, this is from 2 hours ago. You can see the differences there. And the link that I also share with you in the chat. Okay, this is what we talk about. This was already being accepted, the enhanced DAI saving rates, the EDSR. And well, I'm going to share also the PALC's document. Shout out to PALC. I know there are some comments in the chat, so give me just a second so I can also take a look at it. Okay, Clocky says, thank you for clarifying. I'll be posting my MIB 102 revisions within the next 2 days. Just a friendly reminder that the deadline for any alterations before submission is August 2nd. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Clocky. He also says, leaving a smidgen less than a week between the time I upload them and the frozen period. If anyone will wish to offer their Steam feedback and suggest any direct changes. So thank you so much for sharing, Clocky. Kianga says, although ReFi AVC is actively engaging or commenting, we're happy to see the effort. And since you are also linked to ReFi, please to keep us in the loop. Yes, thank you so much for being here, Kianga. We appreciate this. Oh yeah, PAL. So yes, this is PAL's document. And well, basically this is regarding Run's post. I'm going to also share the link for this one. So he would kind of like a brief document on Run's post, which is this one. And I think it's pretty relevant to share it in here. Also, we're going to talk in a while about Patrick's proposal. And so in this, what Palk is focusing on here. It's everything that, highlighting the things in Run's post. So he mentions about the marketing strategy, about the subDAO farming. So since this is small, I'm going to read it. The enhanced DAI serving rates is a system to temporarily increase the effective DSR available to users in the early bootstrapping stage when DSR utilization is low. The EDSR is determined based on the DSR and the DSR utilization rate and decreases over time as the utilization increases until it eventually disappears when utilization gets high enough, which is also kind of like what Sam explained earlier. And then according to Run's post, it's about marketing strategy, subDAO farming, and something that it's from Run's post that I want to highlight is this part. Growth is the lifeblood of the project, and this is also exactly what Run mentioned. And the last thing we should be doing now with all of our recent success is to rest on our laurels or sit around and passively wait for the endgame launch phases, which are still months away. Speaking of network effects, growth and something like DAI is entirely momentum-based. The more places it's integrated, the more people use it, the easier it is to grow. So I don't know if anyone wants to comment on this. I'm going to also read on the chat. Also from wording from Run, also the subDAO farming, which is this part. Setting the DSR to a decent value at this stage helps build the network effect and momentum that will help translate to a high level of immediate adoption of the subDAO farming opportunities when they launch. This will make them hit a lot harder and increase the likelihood that the launch becomes an instant success. Also here he shares some graphics from Rema from VA Labs, and also Run's graphic, the post on his comment. And of course, something to point out in here, it's also the proposal 3.2.2.4. The stability facilitators can at any time use the weekly governance cycle to disable EDSR permanently if there are indications that it's not cost-effectively achieving its objectives. So this is about this. And before moving on to Penguin Soldier comments, I'm going to check in the chat. Yes, I didn't take credit for it. If you check my document and quote them. Yes, was created by VA Labs. Yes, it is also, yes, as Paul mentioned on the document, you can see that it's the link from Rema, and he mentioned it that it's like he's not giving himself the credit. Jack says I have to go soon. Thank you for the meeting. Thank you for coming, Jack. Oh yes, we didn't realize you had it. Yes, it's okay. It's okay. But thank you for commenting as well, True Name. Well, let's move on to Penguin Soldier comments. And he says, with the recent proposal by Run on EDSR, the topic of conversation revolves around the optimal percentages for utilization and multiplier rate. I think it is important to also discuss the implementation method. And he has these 3 questions that we're going to put it here as well so people can comment on them. How will the smart contract side of things be handled? Will there be a new contract deployed to keep track of the current utilization percent and adjust the DSR rate in PodSol accordingly? Or will it be an oracle that tracks the numbers and performs the DSR change directly to the contract? So we encourage as well to give us your opinion on this. And since we're talking about this, we also want to share Gov Alpha proposal. It's a request for Gov 12 1.2 edit to usability scope to quickly implement it, enhance DSR, and also to know your thoughts on this. So in 12.1.1, it says, in case of unintended consequences of mistakes in the atlas and scope artifacts causing maker governance to function incorrectly, the governance facilitators can at any time run a governance poll to enable MKR holders to make a decision that would alleviate and resolve unintended consequences or mistakes. So I'm going to share also the link on his proposal, and we want to know what do you guys think about this. Basically, he says improve the wording. So let me share it in the chat. And thank you, Pinkle Toddler, for your comments. We also think that it's going to be handled manually, but also I wanted to share Pinkle's question. Name says, great points. Did you write this on the forum? We would like to quote in our communication. Yes, please, Pinwheel Soldier, if you could share the link of the questions, which is actually on our channel. But it would be really helpful if you could do it. Clocky says the process is slightly manual. Yeah. When the utilization exceeds 20%, the EDSR will be reduced by means of an executive proposal. Thank you, Clocky. Pedro says, about Gov 12, we would like AD's opinion on your interpretation on unintended consequences or mistakes. Yes, please, that will be really helpful. So calling out our ADs, how can we improve this wording? Okay, so this is it. So I don't know if anyone would like to add anything. This is your moment to comment, to add ideas, to show your proposals. I mean, everything it's valuable, and I think it's the right moment for us if you have also any doubts or any improvements on what we have shared. Also with our guest today, where Sam's knowledge to share with us how and he specific point out that what it's to be kind of improved and how can be more helpful. So I'm going to give a couple of minutes for you to kind of share with us the links into your documentation or anything. Pedro says, we know that this is a governance scope topic, so if you don't have any thoughts or comments right now, we would like to have some proposals for clarifying this rule for the governance scope meeting. Yes, when it comes to this specific, where is it? This part, we're also going to see, as Pedro mentions, on the scope. I am talking about general, about all of this. For example, I think there is a lot to talk about, to know about how you guys see it, this part of the modifications. So if anyone would like to share something in here, or also to bring the proposals that you have for today's meeting. Penguin says, glad that you like it. I posted on this. Yes. Oh yes. Talking about this, we also would like to add to all our ADs and in general that remember that all the communication must be publicly. That's the same way as Penguin Solar did. Just for in any other situation, just like now, TrueName wants to know where is the link of the chat, we can share it. It was just like a friendly reminder. And also, we are planning to write down this as a rule of the conduct of AD. So the document that I just forget the name of the document, but it's also here that I'm going to share. And that's what we're thinking, not only just saying it out loud, but also writing it down. And then Wither says, it can be added to the next executive after the utilization is reached and included in this spell. Yes. And then Clocky says, regarding this section 4.4 legacy legal recourse assets, are LRI collateral types that were onboarded based on the governance process prior to the alignment artifacts going into force. Legacy LRI should be offboarded when it's possible to do so, but in some cases, existing LRI can be maintained and even onboarded to preserve business and relationships and reputation. Okay, so he's quoting this part and says, how can we guarantee expeditious completion of this task? And the current pace, it appears that new chain might very well be unavailable to the world before we augment this article with the recording details. Consequently, we might very well pay to offboard. Okay, interesting. What are your thoughts about Neil Silver being onboarded as LRA? And then Penguin started. Okay, so this is regarding this specific section. Blue says, my input for today is not a proposal of a scope change, but a proposal to take a look at the approach Keys is taking, identifying critical path and executing on the single most important thing to actually try getting it done. Personally, if we took that approach, I think we could become better. Oh, I lost it. Better at documenting the thoughts and rationale behind MIP edits. Totally. Thank you, Blue. Yes. This makes later changes easier, especially in cases where the AVCs and relevant delegates had been replaced and when Ruin is less influential than he is today. Can you give us an approach, more context about what is the approach Keys is taking? Maybe then we can to focus on one main problem then, okay? So what critical path you suggest we should focus on? That's actually a very good feedback. We like that. What we think is that there are many things that should be improved, but you're right, we should focus on the most critical one. So let's ask the question, what do you guys think is the most critical? Okay, I propose focusing on documentation and rationale behind decisions. Okay, thank you. True Name says, we find expensive review and conversation to be very useful and informative as an AD not following this AVC. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, True Name. Well, I think this is all for today, but as always, guys, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to put in here as well what we always see. Remember that actually this is the document that I was talking earlier about, and I'm going to share also the link with you so you can have a review and also give us feedback about this. We appreciate and value feedback from ADs, Maker governance participants, and all members of the Maker ecosystem. So please take a look at our proposal. This is, of course, the quarter's draft. And remember that next week we're going to talk about accessibility scope. So any most important relevant things that for you it needs to be improved, please let us know. And if you appreciate our work and share our value, we invite you to consider becoming an AD of our Sovereign AVC. And if you're an MKR holder, you can delegate it to our ADs that are here as well. And that's all. See you next call that is going to be about stability scope. That's all. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Bye-bye, guys.